In a major reversal of policy, US President Joe Biden has approved the use of long-range missiles supplied by the United States to Ukraine, allowing Kyiv to strike targets deep within Russia. The decision marks a dramatic shift in US policy, which had previously prohibited Ukraine from using US-made ATACMS, that is Army Tactical Missile Systems, inside Russian territory out of concern that such actions could escalate the war in Ukraine. The policy change comes as tensions continue to rise in the region, with Russian and North Korean forces bolstering their presence on the front lines. So what are the ATACMS and what will be the ramifications of their usage? The ATACMS produced by Lockheed Martin are among the most advanced and powerful weapons the US has provided to Ukraine. Capable of striking targets up to 300 kilometers away, these missiles have been used by Ukraine in its ongoing defense of occupied territories, but have been limited to targets within Ukrainian borders. Until now, Washington had restricted their use inside Russia, fearing that such strikes could provoke a dangerous escalation from Moscow. However, recent developments appear to have pushed the Biden administration to reconsider. Ukrainian officials had long argued that restrictions on the use of ATACMS within Russia hampered their ability to effectively combat a Russian aggression, particularly as Moscow continues to expand its territorial gains and intensify its military options. The decision reportedly comes in response to a new development on the battlefield, which is the deployment of North Korean troops to the Kursk region, where Russian forces are reportedly preparing a counter-offensive to reclaim territory in Ukraine's east. The US decision also seems to be influenced by the looming uncertainty of the upcoming US elections, with fears that a change in administration could lead to a dramatic shift in Washington's policy towards Kyiv. While Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has not yet publicly confirmed the policy change, he hinted at its significance in comments made on Sunday, stating strikes are not made with words, the missiles will speak for themselves. With a green light to use ATACMS missiles, Ukraine is now able to target military strikes inside Russia, which is a move that could shift the dynamics on the battlefield, especially around the Kursk region. Ukrainian forces have been holding on to more than 1,000 square kilometers of territory in this area since August, and a Russian counteroffensive is expected. Meanwhile, Ukraine may use the ATACMS to target key Russian positions, including military bases, supply lines, and ammunition depots, as well as critical infrastructure. However, US and Ukrainian officials have tempered expectations, suggesting that while the missiles will enhance Ukraine's military capabilities, they are unlikely to dramatically alter the course of war. Russian military assets such as fighter jets have already been repositioned to airfields deeper inside Russian territory in anticipation of potential Ukrainian strikes. A Western diplomat in Kyiv, speaking anonymously, described the decision as an undue symbolic move to signal continued military support for Ukraine. The diplomat said that it's not likely to be decisive, but it could raise the stakes for Russia and increase the cost of continuing the war. While the military impact of the ATACMS may be limited, analysts believe the psychological effect of the strikes could be significant. According to Evelyn Farkas, a former Deputy Assistant Secretary of Defense who spoke to the BBC, the use of ATACMS against high-profile targets like the Kerch Bridge, which links China to mainland Russia, could have a powerful symbolic effect. Farkas said, and I quote, "It would show that Ukraine is willing to strike at Russia's heartland." There is also the possibility that other NATO allies such as the United Kingdom and France may follow suit and allow Ukraine to use similar long-range missiles like the Storm Shadow, which has capabilities comparable to the ATACMS. Meanwhile, Russia has consistently warned that providing Ukraine with advanced Western weapons, particularly those capable of striking inside Russian borders, would be seen as a direct NATO involvement in the conflict. In September, President Vladimir Putin stated that such a move would substantially change the very essence of the conflict and could trigger a broader confrontation. While the United States has been cautious about arming Ukraine with long-range missiles, other red lines have already been crossed. Western allies have provided Ukraine with advanced battle tanks and fighter jets, yet these actions have not led to direct conflict between the NATO and Russia. A former US ambassador to NATO, Kurt Volker, criticized the prior restrictions on ATACMS, calling them arbitrary and based on an unfounded fear of provoking Russia. He said, and I quote, "The United States was unjustifiably imposing restrictions on Ukraine's ability to defend itself. The decision to limit the use of ATACMS was a mistake from the outset." As President Biden's time in office wanes, the future of US military support for Ukraine remains uncertain, particularly with Donald Trump's impending return to the White House. Trump has previously voiced concerns about the cost of the war and suggested that he would seek to bring it to an end quickly, though he had not provided a detailed plan. The decision to authorize ATACMS for use against targets in Russia has raised concerns in Ukraine that a change in US leadership could result in a drastic shift in policy. Some of Trump's allies, including his son Donald Trump Jr., have criticized the military-industrial complex and suggested that continued US involvement could escalate the conflict. On the other hand, figures like National Security Advisor Michael Waltz have argued that the United States should continue to supply Ukraine with weapons to compel Russia to negotiate a peace settlement. However, there is little consensus within the upcoming administration, leaving Ukraine's future military support in doubt.